a Heroes Welcome podcast.
Welcome back, listeners, for an extra special bonus episode of a Heroes Welcome podcast. I am your co-host, Maria LaCare Diego, and I'm here with my ever-playful co-host, Liliana.
Excuse me, Princess Liliana. We established this week.
That's right. I forgot. Princess Liliana.
Thank you. Thank you. And we are here with the amazing Jessica. But Jessica, how do you want to introduce yourself to all our listeners?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jessica.
Excuse me, you just heard me say my princess. You don't want to take advantage of this?
No, I don't think Princess Jessica needs to happen. I think the world should be spared to Princess Jessica. If anything, I'd be more on the evil side, maybe. But yes, I am Jessica Cauthorne.
And welcome back. Welcome
Thank
back.
you.
This is your third stop by for us.
Yeah.
It's exciting to be back. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you. And Maria, what is it that we're here? What is it that we're promoting? Excuse me.
Yeah, so Jessica was a speaker last year for Play Therapy Disney Bound and has so graciously returned this year to continue being a speaker for us. So Play Therapy Disney Bound is my week-long conference addressing all things play therapy in the magic of Disneyland, where we integrate learning and playing so that we both are taking care of ourselves and furthering our skills for our clinicians.
Mm-hmm. So for anyone who has not registered yet, we have, I think you said 4 spots.
4. Yeah.
That's it.
4.
So people, listen, you have to go. I had the pleasure of taking Jessica's training last year. And oh my God, it was so amazing. I took so many notes. I keep referencing that training.
Talks about it all the time.
So please go. Jessica, tell us what is it that you're going to be teaching this year?
Okay. So this year, the workshop that I'm doing is play therapy with the LGBTQ plus community, connection through Disney and pop culture inclusion. That's the title. And pretty much what we're looking at is Disney and other pop cultures have been starting to make more inclusion of the queer community. And I'm using queer as a broad, loving term to include everybody under that umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
And people need to be seen. They need representation of themselves in the world as they're figuring out who they are and feel understood. And the queer community is at highest risk for a lot of mental health and suicidality and other struggles. And if we can, see ourselves on the screen or see somebody that might be struggling with something that we're struggling with out there in the world, we don't feel so alone, especially because that coming out process can be very isolating, lonely, and take some time.
Yeah.
So we're looking at ways to perhaps have more visibility and connection that people can see to increase that comfort so they're able to move towards coming out safely and feel that they're not so alone through Disney and other pop culture.
Yeah, love it. Love it, right? Especially for play therapists who, with good intentions, want to go and do this work. And we need training in regards to that safety component that you just mentioned, their story and their representation. Beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's been so nice to see lately, in the last couple of years, Disney being such a beacon of progression and acceptance and inclusivity, because we don't see that everywhere else for big media components. And I mean, we've talked before, I'm a Disney adult, I'm a huge nerd. These fandoms are important to me, and there are lots of large fandoms that are struggling now because the people behind those fandoms are not safe people. They're not allies. They're very harmful. So to have a big player like Disney stand ground and put out shows and cartoons that have queer representation is so impactful.
It really is. And, the relationship hasn't always been smooth. In some of my research, I learned, I wasn't familiar with the show. Maybe you ladies are, The Owl House.
Mm.
It's on Disney Plus, and it's extremely large within the community. I mean, there was overt same-sex couples, parents, lead figures that were gay. I mean, it was really very, very inclusive. And it made it 3 seasons, I believe it was, before it ended up not going the rest of the way. But Disney did allow for that to start. And though it got a little, I think, maybe stronger than they had anticipated, and that was part of the pullback, it was still there and it's still up. Nothing's been pulled.
Mhm.
There's some debate about, the first same-sex kiss in the Star Wars series in live
Right.
action ever to happen. And they thought it was going to be with main characters, and it was like two side characters as it panned by.
Mhm.
It was still there. And let me tell you, my daughter and I were cheering when we saw that. Um, so yeah, I mean, it takes various forms and stuff.
Yeah.
And I've also been finding through my research, there's a lot of, fandom where people are maybe seeing same-sex coupling or relationships or identifying somebody as being gay or non-binary or somewhere on that spectrum that maybe not, but there's enough there that it could be. And
Yeah.
that desire again to see that representation is so strong that it's found regardless. And so even if Disney isn't overtly being like, yes, this is a lesbian character, or yes, this person is non-binary, people are identifying that on their own and still finding comfort in that, which is beautiful, right? Narrate the story in a way that makes sense for you. And how can we support that as therapists in our playroom? How can we incorporate that and have, again, representation of pop culture figures or symbols or whatever that somebody will see and be like, oh, I know what that means. That means they get it.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it comes to mind the cartoon Strange World that they put
Yeah,
out.
that's the other one. Yes.
Yeah, that, not until the end, but then they didn't shy away from it either when, the boy is like identified that his crush is another boy and like and it's
Yes.
embraced and it's celebrated. But we also get to see like the awkward shyness of like, oh, I like you, but I don't know. Right. It was really cute and it was done in a kind way, right? It like wasn't like,
Yeah.
people who are uncomfortable with this material feel like it's always pushed in their face. Um, and somehow we are doing something to them by being
Right.
expressive in our own ways. But I think that was another really good representation, because it wasn't a main plot point, but it also wasn't shied away from.
Right, which actually makes it even more normal. It doesn't have to be a huge focal, right?
Right.
You don't have to live your sexual orientation or your gender identity or any of that. That doesn't have to be like the constant focus of your life, but just to have it be part of life, and
Yeah.
that's enough.
Yeah. So the idea of seeing myself, seeing a mirror, right? So that I can be okay when I see myself, when I express myself,
Mhm.
right? And that's what matters. That's what we mean by representation. And then what kind of language? Can you give me ideas? When we go to trainings, we're looking for, can I get ideas for what kind of language? What is the things that I have to be aware of?
Mm.
Sure.
What are the things, right? Go ahead.
Well, so and that's the other piece. So it is constantly changing, and
Yes.
depending on where you go, you're going to get different information.
Yeah.
I mean, the human rights campaign resources versus the Trevor Project
Yeah.
versus people. I mean, they're just everywhere.
Yeah.
Um, And I think one of the most important factors too is, and also within the trans community, if somebody makes a mistake and uses a term or a word that was not correct,
Mhm.
just, and you're corrected, just, oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Now I know, and moving on. Because
Mhm.
everybody does, it's a personal experience for everybody. Like, I'm very comfortable with the term queer, but some people still find that to be offensive. So if I'm in a conversation and I throw out queer and somebody's like, oh, I don't like that term.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. What would you like me to use instead?
Yeah.
And moving on. But there's definitely SOGI that's becoming more popular now, which is sexual orientation and gender identity.
Expression.
Expression, thank you. See, exactly, expression. It's expression. Like the term transgender itself means somebody's moving from one thing to another. It's that journey.
Mhm.
So if somebody's actually completed their journey
Mhm.
and they were one gender, had, the assigned sex at birth and they are now another, they're not necessarily a trans man or female. They are a man
Yeah.
or a female, right?
Yes.
So it's little pieces like that that we're going to go into a little bit more.
Love it.
Saying, what is your preferred pronoun? It's actually like, no, just what's your pronoun?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
And I love because you just highlighted something that we don't talk about in play therapy, which is generationally, we either accept or reject words.
yes.
And because we work with multiple generations, we have to be aware of the difference and acceptance of each one and then honor them the same way that
Yes.
we honor pronouns. Beautiful.
Yes. When I was looking up stuff, for the research for this presentation, when I was born in the late 70s. So I don't know if you guys, and this is going to be a little offensive, but the term, you're a queer bait was horribly offensive.
Yes.
Right? That's no, 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 no.
Yeah.
Now that's a term to show like, a show is indicating that there might be a gay relationship, but they're not overtly saying it, and it's changed definition.
Yeah.
So that was really cool for me because I'd love to have more positive language than negative, but that's an example. And then, again, like the term queer, that used to be very, that was a slang term, you don't use, but depending on the individual now, it's all changing. So yes, generations make a difference too, and the language is always changing. And if you can't keep up, that's okay. But if you're corrected, it doesn't mean like you're a terrible person or you should never use any pronoun or anything. Just, okay, thank you for correcting me. How would you like me to refer, or what term would you like me to use, and moving on?
I would say, and most often, the community would rather you attempt to do it and make a mistake than to not do it at all or feel like you have to walk on eggshells.
Yeah.
I think that that's another piece is like the community doesn't expect us to get it right. They also are aware that it's changing and it's fluid and but I think it's the attempt and the humankind connection behind what you're attempting to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, you nailed it, Maria. It's the intent. You're not trying to harm somebody. You're learning, and that's okay. I mean, I've always heard like non-binary or gender neutral or like different terms, and now in a lot of my research I'm seeing gender expansive.
Yes.
I mean, like I said, the terminology is everywhere, and no, I'm never trying to offend anybody. And again, person A might be fine with one term, but person B might not. So there's also some personal comforts with that, and we just
Two things that came to mind. One is that anytime the return is out, it's outdated.
Yes.
And that
It's on the internet.
culture.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm very aware of that. And hopefully all of your listeners are becoming aware, or if this is new, write it down. By the time that you're reading it, more than likely it's outdated. You cannot keep up.
Yes. I was actually trying to make a compiled list of terms, and I gave up.
Yeah.
I mean, that could have taken me a year, and then it would, like you said, be outdated. So instead I have resources and links to ever-changing definitions online that you can keep up with.
Yeah. And then two, if someone offers you or corrects you and you go into like defenses because they want to make it right. This is not about fucking you.
No,
they just give you an opportunity. So get off your horse. You honor that and you correct that from that moment on. You don't get to be offended because someone corrected you.
Absolutely. And then go home and figure out why you got offended that somebody corrected you about them and their life and who they are.
Take that to your therapist.
Yeah. I love that.
But truly, and Jessica, why this topic? I mean, I know you, and I know we had a discussion, and you had this idea immediately after last year's Disney Bound conference. So why this topic?
That's cute. That you mentioned that. Okay, so I back in the 90s, I identified as bisexual. In 2020s, I realized I'm pansexual because I've had relationships with people who were in transition, so trans people, whatever. So I have lived my life in this community. And my daughter is figuring out who she is. And last year, we were at Disney last year, so she was 10 last year. And we were, in pin trading live at this conference, having a great time. And Layla saw a pride pin and got so excited. And I watched my daughter connect and feel supported and seen at Disney. And I went, there it is.
Yeah.
And she's obviously not the only one who needs it. And yes, I know Disney's relationship with the queer community
Yep.
has been up and down, but still, in her excitement and wanting to get all the pride pins and feeling like she was safe and okay.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking about that. And just, yeah, when we came back, I'm like, there we go. And then, elections happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
And
now more than ever, when we have, I think the last time when I looked at the HRC website, it was like there was 250 bills or something like that. I have the stats in the presentation, against
yeah.
same sex or trans or whatever in different states. Like, our friends, our families, our children, our sisters, our brothers, our mothers, our fathers, they need support, they need connection. And the more that we can provide that sense of safety, gosh, especially when people are younger, it's just,
Yeah.
we need to support our community because people are dying.
I was gonna say, like, I was gonna start with the famous thing that came out last, but I was like, okay, I'm not gonna go into politics, but like, God, I'm everyone out there, like, just know that I'm holding myself because that's really, really hard. But I
But
love,
it makes a difference.
yes,
The
but
It does.
politics and the policies that are in play have direct impact on the clients that we're seeing and the clinicians trying to do the work. If you identify and you are a clinician and you are feeling scared and unsafe, you're not in a place to then help your clients, right? So it's like the
Yes,
trickle down effect.
absolutely.
This impacts everybody, even if you don't identify as part of this community.
Yes.
And so I love Jessica that you were the voice of feminist theory and play therapy last year. You're the voice for, I call them the alphabet mafia community. Uh, I love that you stand on principle and are willing to have these conversations because not everybody is. I mean, speaking of feminist theory, Liliana talks about like it had been ages since she had heard anyone talk about feminist theory and never having someone connect that to play. And that's so important.
It really is. And one of the stats I found from the Trevor Project, which everybody can look up online, I will read it because I don't want to be incorrect. So nearly 1 in 3 LGBTQ youth people said their mental health was poor most of the time or always due to anti-LGBTQ policies and legislation. And nearly 2 in 3 young people said hearing about potential state laws banning the discussion of LGBTQ in the schools made their mental health a lot worse. So that's the other thing. People, they're plugged in
Right.
and know what's going on.
Well, they
And
have to. They have
absolutely.
to,
And
right? It's survivorship.
absolutely. And 41% of queer youth seriously considered suicide back in 2022, at the last Risk Youth Behavior Survey that was done. And
So high.
32 attempted, 32%.
yeah,
And I
So
know that's dark and heavy, but I'm like, that's the bottom line, right? If you and there's other factors that contribute to it, which we go into in the presentation, but if you're not supported, if you are not seen, if you are not safe, you're at risk of saying that this world doesn't want me and I'm better off not in it.
yeah.
And that's not acceptable. We need to do better.
but no. So we
Yes.
definitely, all of you, please, please, please go and attend. We will have Jessica back
Yay.
so that we can talk more about this topic because we need all of the therapists to be informed. We need to give them tools for what's coming for the next 4 years. And not that it has
Yes.
to the next 4 years. It's always an issue, but because of all the laws, because of the philosophy that we're going into, we need to be prepared for the amount of anxiety, unjust that is
Yeah.
coming our way.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. We need to be able to support and take care of, everyone during this period of, uncertainty and fear. A lot of people are living in daily fear all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you for talking about this topic. Thank
Thank
you
you for
for
having
sharing
me.
about you and your daughter. Um, My
Who
son,
I adore, by the way. I'm just gonna go on record. So when she gets mad at me next time, I'm like, everyone knows I love you, so it's fine.
And she's letting me use the picture of her in the presentation at Pride, looking fabulous with her little Pride flag on as a
love
cape.
Yes.
Yeah.
okay. I
Also,
don't even.
I really appreciate this, Jessica. You're the last speaker we've gotten to chat with. And I know, I know this idea of going to a conference at Disneyland seems really far-fetched for those that did not drink the Kool-Aid with us last. And I do want to highlight that these sessions, we've talked to all the speakers. These are important sessions to attend. These are important lectures and learning opportunities, in addition to being able to play and integrate into the parks. This is not a blow off conference.
No.
There is so much heavy learning that we then integrate by being able to go move our bodies, um, trade our pins, wear our ears, meet our characters, and foster a community of other people of like, this was meaningful and it was meaningful that you were also there.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yes, absolutely, Maria. And that's part of the beauty of this conference. It's yes, it's fun and play, but there's also deep, important learning that takes place with all of the presentations and presenters.
Yeah. So don't miss out. Please go register. Maria, name the website so that everyone is listening where they can go and register.
Sure, and we'll drop it in the text as well, but it's a newhopeacademy.org/play at Disneyland.
Woo-hoo!
Hello. Thank you,
And
Jessica.
what better way to deal with the frustrations of the world than screaming your brains out on an awesome fun ride?
Yeah. If you're worried, we have lots of people who will hold your hand for the Guardians drop or the
Yep.
Incredicoaster. You don't have to be afraid.
You can be afraid and still do it. And you will lose your voice because you will be screaming a lot.
This is
But
true.
it's
I might
good
not have a voice to present with because I believe I'm on the last day, but I'll do my darndest. I'll drink a lot of tea.
You're going to have a sexy voice at the end. Look,
There you go.
let's reframe it right now. So thank you, Jessica, for being here. Listeners, please go register, and then we will have Jessica to come back and talk more about this topic. Until next
Thank
time.
you. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
guys.